Darren Marchant reporting for American Nomad News. And it is Sunday. In the middle of the holidays. Late November. And other than a lone passing car every few minutes, the roads are straight empty around here. Okay, that was two cars. Car and a truck. There's not much traffic today. What leaves aren't on the ground are looking kind of sad. The sky is bleak and cold. And I'm thinking about space. The long, lonely distances to be traveled in the future. Buzz Aldrin discovered an interesting type of orbit that could be achieved called the Aldrin cycler, or a cycler orbit. Basically what it is you could set a large ship on a fairly stable orbit that swings out beyond Mars but passes it close, and on its way back it passes Mars again fairly close and passes Earth and loops back again, and as it goes back and forth it constantly is passing Earth and Mars. Very convenient. Now this orbit is a key element in some of the problems that we may face in the future in interplanetary economics. With the prospect of a colony on Mars a fair reality, the ever popular SpaceX and its head prognosticator Elon Musk are working hard to develop large-scale rockets on a affordable format to bounce back and forth from here to Mars. Now, in order to initiate work in space, these large rockets going all these distances makes a fair amount of sense. However, in the future, what we may see is rockets of the type Elon is building going up to high orbit and parking there just prior to the cycler coming close to Earth, and the two of them meet, exchange payloads, and back comes the rocket to Earth, and on goes the cycler on its orbit. Interplanetary shipping is a big deal. It's very expensive. And such a ship would have to be fueled on a regular basis, but it would not require as much fuel to maintain course as it would to get it started and to build it and to do all these things. There's also the question of, if you produce something on Mars, how do you transfer that economy back and forth from Mars to Earth. Now, part of the economy is quite easy. Information. What we learn about Mars is valuable and can easily and inexpensively be transmitted back to Earth. And what Earth learns can be transmitted to Mars. So medical developments and technological developments of benefit to both communities can be easily transported back and forth via electronic transmission. Now, in the future, we can expect to see fuel production from the moon and asteroids that can be used to refuel ships in the interplanetary medium. Ships coming from Earth up would have to be fueled from Earth. They could be refueled from space to move around in space, or from space to assist in landing back on Earth, improving economies. Part of the problem is, how do we form a legitimate and long-lasting, scalable government in space, in the interplanetary medium, and on the planets and bodies like the moon and Ceres and others, to keep things stable without everything being the Wild West, and piracy and wars? Because we certainly do without that. That's an instability Earth cannot afford. What do we got for minutes here? We got, looks like 7 minutes. Helium-3, which can be produced from the surface of the moon and likely asteroids, is very valuable and has the potential of being an extremely effective fuel, making it a candidate for importation to Earth. But most materials like iron and copper really are not practical to import to Earth. They just don't have the price per pound ratio that makes it worth it. However, they're incredibly valuable for producing equipment in space. For instance, our orbit has a huge selection of satellites intentionally placed there under great cost and to great benefit to mankind. These satellites include weather satellites, military satellites, communication satellites, and telescopes, just to name a few. We also have probes all over the solar system. We have important probes on a solar orbit, watching the sun and teaching us about the science of what in the heck is going on with that giant ball of flame that we depend on so much, and yet a tiny variation in its output could be very significantly dangerous for us. So we want to watch that thing. We want to learn about it. All of this equipment takes very extensive effort to place in their respective orbits. Now, if we produce deep space industry, heavy production, then it's possible to produce all of these varieties of satellites and probes in that space medium in much larger numbers and to distribute them much more widely. See my video on asteroid hitchhiker probes. Elon Musk has mastered the mass production and distribution of satellites in orbit that has been a goal of the satellite industry for a while with Teledesic and others. Satellites are shrinking in size. You can look at CubeSats and others. There's plenty of YouTube videos that have talked about those things. All of these things affect the economics of space. Thank you for your time. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Darren Marchant, American Nomad News, Space Segment.